Welcome back to the New Haven Free Public Library. I'm Celeste and I work in Ives Square. And today we have our fourth and last session about financial planning bootcamp with our expert, Caroline Wetzel. This is the last session of our series. We're hoping to maybe get back with her again in the future, but I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. And thank you again. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Celeste. Thank you, New Haven Free Public Library, Ives Squared, and all of you participating in the webinar today. It has been such a pleasure to share this information with you. As Celeste mentioned, this is our fourth and final session together as part of our Financial Planning Bootcamp. And what I'd love to do today to support our conversation is guide you through the prepared content that hopefully all of you see on your screen right now. As we move through, what I'll do is I'll give you a little bit of a reminder of who I am. I'll talk you through what financial wellness entails, and then we'll focus right in on training for a financially healthy retirement. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting so far in our series, and as a friendly reminder to those of you who have been part of our experience together, I am Caroline Wetzel, Vice President, Private Wealth Advisor with Procyon Partners, an independent fiduciary financial planning team that's focusing on financial planning and investment management for clients all day, every day. But I haven't been doing this my whole career. You see, by way of introduction, I have been happily married this summer. It'll be 20 years to my husband, Scott. And I did work in a global financial executive role for about 15 years or so. But put most succinctly, life did not happen according to any plan that my husband and I had in mind for ourselves. We experienced multiple miscarriages. I gained 80 pounds and lost 60 pounds as part of numbing the pain. And additionally, I was diagnosed with alopecia areata universalis, which is a condition where I lost all of my hair. So this is a wig, these are fake eyelashes. I choose to simulate a look that was very similar to how I appeared before the condition set in. The reason why I share this very personal health story with you is because this gave fertile ground to my new professional focus. You see, I use this opportunity through the love and commitment of my husband and family to pivot from the global corporate executive to a specialist in wealth management in financial planning. I joined an independent team of fiduciary professionals, and now all day, every day, my passion is to help people understand their financial choices, to optimize their financial health, in the same way I personally am continuously trying to improve my own physical and emotional and mental health. And that's why it's so exciting with Celeste, with Ives Squared, and with New Haven Free Public Library to offer you this financial planning bootcamp series. And
Thank
so,
you.
yeah, truly. And so what is it that we have done together as a team? We've offered 4 webinars. Each of them has different dimensions to personal financial planning. Different strategies are in each session and they work together. And all 4 experiences are available to give you a holistic, comprehensive financial health focus. And thanks again to Celeste, Ives Squared, and New Haven Free Public Library, recordings of our times together are all available online. So what I'd love to do today is dive now right into the content for our focus for today, which is to complement the experiences we've done so far, the personal financial fundamentals. How do we think about and train for retirement? And as we move forward here, how is it that we think of it? Well, first, we'll talk about what financial health and well-being entail. What is the mindset? Because once we clarify that mindset, then I'll offer you 4 exercises and 6 strategies for how to best train today and prepare over time for retirement in the future. So as we begin, what's important to level set and keep in mind? Financial health and financial well-being is a very individual experience. It's going to look different person to person in the same way retirement, quite frankly, does. Across all of our experiences, when we think of financial well-being, I like to utilize the same definition that the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, a government agency designed to protect consumers, define for financial health and well-being. It has 4 pillars, as you see here: having control over day-to-day spend, having the capacity to absorb a shock should it happen, being on track to achieve your goals, and having the freedom to make choices over time so that you enjoy the wealth that you have. And so, put most succinctly, people with the same income, comparable financial experiences or education can have very different levels of financial health or well-being. You can be financially healthy and have any particular number of zeros or dollars in your accounts. It's all about mindset and capacity to enjoy your lifestyle today and over time. And so when we think about lifestyle today and over time, when does physical training actually work? It works when you have 4 components in mind. When you have a vision for what you're doing and why you're doing it when it comes to your physical health. When you're aware of the risks, what are the whys for why it's so important for sustaining and training and building your physical health. You understand the resources available to you and you strategically use them as you condition and build and get stronger over time. And lastly, you establish a routine and you stick to it. And here's where I'd like to identify 2 main things for you. First, retirement as we know it is looking very different today than ever before. And so for the purposes of our discussion today, in the same way we broadened our definition of financial health and well-being to be very broad and flexible, I encourage you to think of retirement as a different lifestyle from how you enjoy it in the current way that you earn your income and may change it in the future. You have a change in income and experience, and that's what we're planning for. And as we identify that first variable, retirement, broadly speaking, is changing your income and lifestyle to afford your next chapter. Then the second thing I want to highlight with you is that those same 4 components that work when training for your physical health are applicable when it comes to training for your retirement. The same 4 activities are relevant for you for training for a financially healthy retirement. So what do I mean? Here is where I'd like to go into the detail of the exercises and the strategies that are important for training for a financial healthy retirement. Exercise 1, envision your retirement. Too few people don't think about retirement until it's too late, or said differently, too many people don't think about retirement until it's too late. Too few people think about it all the time. And what I invite you to think about, if we take that broad definition, retirement is changing the lifestyle as you experience it today, then what I want you to envision is, how might your life be different in the future? Think of retirement planning as lifestyle planning. And when we think of retirement or lifestyle planning, what I offer you is to think of it regularly, early, and give yourself the freedom to continuously change your mind as life changes. So what you see on this page here is some important considerations as part of envisioning your retirement. On the left-hand side of the page, you see a pie chart that's created by MIT Age Labs through Hartford Funds. So if we take a step back, MIT Age Labs is an interdisciplinary institution that studies how people age over time. And what you see in this pie chart is a reflection of years of research of how people globally spend their money in quote unquote traditional retirement when they're 65 and older. So what MIT Age Labs did is they said, on what areas of life do people who are 65 and older typically spend the majority of their money? And what's enlightening here is that you see in the blue part of the pie chart, the majority of money in retirement is typically spent on housing when we think of retirement 65 plus. And this makes a lot of sense if we think about it, because the majority of people are seeking to do things like age in place. They'd like to create and make more accessible their physical surroundings as their physical capabilities change. They may choose to downsize, level set, or move into other styles of community. A growing trend is called the continuing care retirement communities, where you may go from living independently to living interdependently to dependently with specialized ongoing care as part of your physical capabilities change. So as we envision exercise 1 and we practice this and we think about retirement, it's essential to understand, if we're thinking over the long term, that the largest proportion of spend for people who are 65 and up has to do with housing. The other proportions of spend that are relevant include transportation. And this makes sense too, because we want a level of freedom and spontaneity in our lifestyles. And so many people age 65 and up, this transportation component is inclusive of things like travel for enjoyment, and also inclusive of the day-to-day spontaneity of being able to take an afternoon off when you have the time and the capacity to do so, to go away for a long weekend. Transportation is 15% of spend. The other key components with regard to retirement spend in the traditional fashion for people 65 and up have to do with a combination of both food, and that 13% of your budget being food is inclusive of both groceries as well as eating out. This is pre-COVID, as well as healthcare, 13%. And I bring this up as well because as part of being deliberate and training for your retirement future and thinking about it, what we want to do to complement expecting that housing will be the largest portion of spend and transportation, the ability to have spontaneity and movement, the combined food and healthcare expenses are a shared third priority in the total amount of spend. And so what does this mean for you when we think about envisioning your retirement and exercise 1? I encourage you to think of 2 main dimensions as you see on the right-hand side of the slide. First, how is the lifestyle that you enjoy today potentially subject to change in the future? What are the activities that you want to do or start doing or stop doing? What does work look like? Is it in line with the Great Resignation where you're stopping work entirely? Or maybe pre-Great Resignation where people were doing side hustles and the gig economy? Maybe you're doing a part-time employment and you're still generating some kind of income. Are you owning your current property for your own physical immediate needs, part of the 35% housing? And also, do you retain other types of real estate for passive income sources in your retirement? To what extent is climate important to you? We love the seasonality here in Connecticut. And quite frankly, some people, especially as we age and we have health conditions, prefer the dryness of the Southwest or the warmth and the moisture of Florida, for instance. And to what extent are being close to family and friends important to you? From the housing perspective, for example, some clients I work with say that as part of their retirement plan, they'll live in Connecticut until the kids are done with school. Then they're going to downsize to another state that's closer to where the kids are going to college. And ultimately, once the kids establish themselves, then they're going to retire again to a continuing care community that's closer to where extended family lives. What is the lifestyle that is important to you? And already invite yourself to be creative and open to what it may entail. And to complement what that lifestyle may look like, be practical around the expenses associated with it. In light of what MIT Age Labs teaches us around the proportion of costs, if you're thinking of staying in Connecticut, being very practical around how your housing costs may change over time, your daily needs, wants, and wishes, and if you need to begin to engage someone else to do services for you. For instance, as you age, you might determine that it's no longer practical for you to do things like taking care of your property and you need to pay someone else to do it. Maybe you'll need to engage a healthcare professional to assist you with some of the activities of daily living. Being very concrete to complement the lifestyle you anticipate with the relative costs of affording it, given where you'd like to spend your time. And a key component that I would be remiss to not highlight as a fiduciary financial planner are the tax considerations around it. There are absolutely different state-specific tax considerations that prompt some retirees to favor moving in places other than Connecticut as part of their long-term retirement plan. So to summarize, the first exercise as part of training for your financially healthy retirement is to arm yourself with information. MIT Age Labs, the 3 greatest proportion of spends for people typically 65 and older, firstly has to do with housing, secondly has to do with transportation, and thirdly has to do with a combination of food and healthcare. So as part of arming yourself with that information, consider for yourself, what is the lifestyle that you aspire to create, the activities, the work, the physical structure, even passive income sources, the climate, family, friends, and proximity, and the corresponding costs of each as our first exercise in training for a financial healthy retirement. Now, I promised you that in addition to the exercises, I would give you some strategies to keep in mind along the way too. So here's the first of the 6 strategies that I invite you to think about as you practice these exercises for a financially healthy retirement. The first is to recognize and realize how retirement income works. And depending on when you begin your retirement, there are different streams of income that are relevant for funding your lifestyles. So if we take as an assumption that retirement income would begin for someone in her 60s, for instance, what she is looking to do is she is looking to replace the income that she previously enjoyed from a series of sources. And what you see laid out here are the different sources typically that as a financial planner, I'm seeking to confirm that are available to her and how she prioritizes turning on and using each of these incomes to fund her lifestyle. And you see on the screen here that it may include everything from at the bottom of the page, other income. So I mentioned as an example, some people keep property as sources of passive income in retirement. Some people, like I said before, might have gig jobs or side hustles, or maybe that becomes their new focus in retirement. They move from fully employed as an employee of an organization to becoming their own business owner. There might be different hobbies that generate some income, and there might be strategic solutions that individuals have purchased over time, like annuities that have different payout structures that are part of their income in retirement, where you turn on those income streams at different ages as part of funding your lifestyle. To complement that other category, there are 4 main areas or sources of income in retirement. The bottom 2, other retirement accounts, may include things like pensions. Some employers still make those available today, and so understanding what your pension payout choices are, the different strategies that are available, and the timing of turning those on. To complement that, we have the personal savings that individuals build and accumulate over time. The retirement savings plans include everything from formerly employer-provided plans, 401k, 403b, 457, that may be moved into things like traditional IRA or Roth IRA. And maybe you're a business owner and you have a SEP IRA or a solo 401k. It's understanding and utilizing income out of those retirement savings plans as one input to your retirement income. And lastly, Social Security as a component of your retirement income. And while many people know this, I need to emphasize it again. Social Security is only one component of your retirement income. And the proportion of your retirement income that it actually is related to how much income you earned pre-retirement. So said differently, Social Security will not equal everything that you earned before you retired, and how much you get out of Social Security depends on how much you put in prior to retiring and when you claim Social Security. And I'll elaborate more on that in a moment. Because strategy number 2, as we think about our first exercise, envisioning your retirement, what are the things to think about with that lifestyle? Strategy 2, to complement understanding that your retirement income is made up of lots of different sources. When we estimate in your retirement income needs, it's going to look very different individual to individual based on a few factors. 1, your income pre-retirement. Second, your expenses in retirement. And third, the people whom you are responsible for, both pre and post-retirement. And so what you see here is an illustration courtesy of JP Morgan, where it provides an illustrative example that when thinking about your retirement income and estimating how much you need, a general rule of thumb, and this is not applicable to everyone, but it just gives you a baseline to keep in mind, is you're looking in general to replace about up to 75% of your pre-retirement income. So if you're earning a certain amount of money before you retire, say in your 60s, then you're seeking to replace approximately 75% of it from all of those different sources I just showed on the previous page. And what you see here, as illustrated by this diagram, is that Social Security as one input to your estimated retirement income will be a larger or a smaller proportion of your estimated retirement income need, depending on how much you earn pre-retirement. So by way of example, if you earned, for instance, 30 or 40 or 50,000 pre-retirement, Social Security and the amount that you paid in will generally yield a larger proportion of your 75% estimated retirement income needs you'll need in retirement, in contrast to if you were earning $250,000 a year, Social Security is just going to give you a small fraction of what you will need in retirement. So strategy number 2, to complement recognizing the different sources of retirement income that you're trying to utilize to afford your lifestyle, estimate how much income you're going to need. And a general rule of thumb is 75% of your pre-retirement income, and expect that Social Security will only be a portion of that. And that lends itself nicely to strategy number 3, when I mentioned earlier, when you claim Social Security, you get a different amount back to you. So what do I mean by this? At a very high level and in a very summarized way, the way that Social Security works is, as you are a working professional, you pay taxes into the Social Security system. And then from a retirement income perspective for Social Security, you have the ability to turn on Social Security, or said differently, claim Social Security at a particular age. And as illustrated here, the earliest that anyone, generally speaking, can turn on their retirement income or claim Social Security is at age 62. If someone claims Social Security at age 62, she gets a portion of what she put in. If someone claims Social Security at her full retirement age, and this is a very specific date, it's based on when you were born. If you claim Social Security at your full retirement age, you get 100% back of what you put in as you were a working professional. If you wait to claim Social Security until after your full retirement age, you get what you put into the system plus a little extra. And that little extra today is something like 8%. It grows as you have more months elapse from your full retirement age up until your age 70, where essentially there is no additional incremental benefit to waiting to claim Social Security. So the third strategy to keep in mind when we talk about exercise 1 is envision your healthy retirement. I want you to have 3 components of income clear in your head. First, the multiple sources of income that become important to identify and coordinate and organize. Second, the estimated amount of retirement income that's essential to keep in mind. And generally speaking, it's about 75% of your pre-retirement income. And thirdly, that when anticipating the proportion of Social Security that's part of that retirement income, the amount that will come due to you is dependent on how much you paid in, as well as when you claim that benefit as part of your retirement. With that, I'm going to take a sip of my water, pause and see if there's any questions in the chat. And if not, I'll continue.
No questions at the moment.
Great. Thank you, Celeste. To complement then exercise 1 and our first 3 strategies, let's proceed. Exercise 2, understand your risks. In the same way that concerns like heart disease or obesity or any number of conditions may prompt us, the risk factors may prompt us to action and train physically, there are risks to our enjoyment of retirement that prompt us to plan as well from a training financially for our retirement. Here you see just some of the risks that I think are important to highlight. They include, firstly, longevity. On average, men today live till 82, women live till 86. So it's reasonable to expect that the majority of us will live into our 90s, and even more people will live into their 100s. So if we aspire to change our lifestyle and earn our income differently and afford a different quality of life over time, a key risk to that is living for an extended period of time and not being able to afford it. Another risk that's important to understand includes inflation. And this is something near and dear to all of our hearts right now. The idea that daily activities, gas, groceries, otherwise, are more and more expensive each day and each year. So the risk to enjoying a healthy retirement over time is not being able to afford our day-to-day expenses because of things like inflation. The other 2 variables, in my opinion, are separate but related. Asset allocation has to do with the risks that you're taking with the investments that you are making related to your retirement. And rate of withdrawal has to do with when you're taking money out of your accounts to pay for your lifestyle. And as we chatted about in our last webinar, investing in the allocation of your assets is an essential part of investing in you for the long term and particularly when it comes to your retirement, because the combination of exposures you are taking need to help pay for your day-to-day and hedge or manage rising costs in the form of inflation over time. And there had been historical numbers some of you may have heard about, things like a 4% rate of withdrawal that might be okay in retirement. Given people are living longer than ever, and given the types of assets that previously had been invested that yielded those previous rules of thumb around 4% withdrawal rates, we are at a time where those may no longer be so relevant. So it's important as part of retirement planning and training for retirement to be aware of how you are invested and how much of your investments you anticipating needing to pull out as part of funding your lifestyle. And the last one that admittedly, none of us is able to do with clarity, because none of us is clairvoyant, is understanding or anticipated expenses. So this is where things like healthcare in particular, the healthcare cost creep comes into play. Today, it's 13% of most retirees or people age 65 and up, their budget. But depending on how this continues over time, this may be a larger proportion of spend, especially when compounded with inflation. So the key thing here is with regard to unanticipated or underestimated expenses, a continuous monitoring of what are the areas of spend in retirement, watching how they're changing, so that way you can make new or different choices around how much money you are putting for each of those related expenses. So to summarize, to complement exercise 1, which was envisioning your retirement future, exercise 2 says, as part of that vision, acknowledge the risks that you are trying to mitigate or prevent. In light of longevity, you don't want to outlive your money, so you want to be doing careful and regular savings and investing all along the way. Inflation, you want to be able to afford the goods over time, so investing helps hedge inflation, the idea of growth on what you're doing. But you need the right asset allocation and the target amount of withdrawal so that your assets are growing over time to keep pace with inflation, and continuously monitoring the budget to manage those unanticipated and underestimated expenses. And this naturally introduces the fourth strategy that I'd like to highlight for your consideration. When we think about trying to manage those risks, what can you do concretely as part of being strategic? Strategy 4 says, prioritize your long-term retirement savings and investing. Now, those of you who were with us last time where we talked about investing, you'll recognize immediately on the right-hand side of the page some of the 4 key components of investing for the long term include investing early, regularly, repeatedly or sustainably over time, even when things are dynamic like as they are now, and retaining a diversified exposure with the expectation that at any given time, something or many things might be all over the place. You by design have different exposures that behave differently. And so keeping in mind those 4 investing principles, what you see here is one way of saying, okay, what things do I do first as part of training for my financial healthy retirement? What types of savings do I prioritize first and over time to help make it happen? To begin with, and those of you who have been with us for all 4 webinars will recognize right away, I strongly encourage 3 to 6 months of emergency savings in the form of cash or cash-like equivalents in some kind of account that's easily accessible to you. Now, to complement having that emergency fund in place If you are employed by an employer and you're part of a high deductible healthcare plan, and or that employer contributes to your retirement plan. So some organizations, for instance, will automatically contribute to all of their employees' 401k or 403b. They'll automatically put money into it. What you'll want to do if you are eligible for those types of situations is consider using a health savings account if you have that available to you, if there's some matching available, as well as a defined contribution, 401k, 403b, if that's available to you, because you effectively are benefiting from what your employer is already doing and matching. You're getting double for your contributions. You'll want to, as part of the long-term building up your financial choices, pay down higher interest rate loans. You remember from previous conversations, debt is not a nasty four-letter word. It opens up your financial choices. Debt is bad when it's high interest and it undermines your choices. So in addition to having emergency savings and benefiting from matches in your retirement plans, paying down the higher interest rate loans, and then considering then maximizing your own contributions to your retirement plan or your health savings account. The value of doing that today is it reduces your take-home income that you are paying taxes on today, and it increases the amount of money that you are putting in a tax-deferred account that will grow over time, that you then can utilize for future expenses as long as they're qualified, health accounts or retirement accounts. And then additionally paying down other lower interest loans as part of ensuring that you're systematically covering your debts, utilizing other types of retirement plans. So by way of example, some people who maximize their contributions to their employer retirement plans may consider doing a non-deductible IRA contribution because they're trying to maximize their retirement savings. It depends on your unique situation. And ultimately contributing to taxable or brokerage accounts as well over the long term. The key takeaway here is, as we are anticipating that there are risks to our retirement, including living so long that we're going to need more money, inflation or the cost of things being higher, needing to have a combination of different exposures in our accounts and carefully pulling out of our accounts, and additionally making sure we're on top of the expenses, we manage those risks through strategic, deliberate, early, regular, sustainable, diversified investing, and a systematic way of prioritizing our different savings and investing over time through this strategy as you see laid out here. With that, I'm going to pause again and take a sip as we prepare to continue with our different exercises and strategies. Seeing no questions, we will press on together. We are strong, fit retirement planners and trainers. And the other strategy I wanted to highlight here is, regardless of your specific details of your professional situation today, the majority of us have some type of retirement savings opportunity available. So strategy 5 says, in addition to prioritizing them and using them in a sequential way, actually using those that are available to you. And all this highlights is how different types of retirement accounts work. So by way of a reminder, when you contribute to a retirement account on a pre-tax basis, in the example that I said just a moment ago, you benefit from reducing your taxable income today, and you pay taxes when you take it out in the future over time on the qualified structured way. If you take advantage of Roth contributions today, then you've already paid the taxes today. You don't pay the taxes on the growth over time as long as you follow the specific rules of the account. And you can take the distributions out of those accounts in the future without them being taxed, as long as you follow the rules accordingly. And the key takeaway being here that depending on your specific situation, there may be different types of retirement plan accounts available to you. Know your choices and use them as part of your prioritized structured list of contributing to your retirement savings and investing over the long term. And speaking of using, we are the perfect transition to exercise 3. Continuously use all of your financial resources, today, pre-retirement, and through retirement over time. What you see on this page are 6 key financial planning factors that my team and I identify, and we use all the time when supporting our own clients with planning for their future, whether they're in retirement or preparing for retirement. What are these different components and how do they relate to each other? The first has to do with income. And I've already elaborated on this a bit, but the key takeaway being that at any given time, understand what are your sources of income, what are the contingencies or the considerations around those income, how might that income change, and when anticipating or planning for retirement, estimating the amount of income you need, understanding the sources of income, and being prepared to assemble the pieces of your retirement income to fund the lifestyle that you're seeking. To complement the income side of the equation, expenses are inclusive of both essential and discretionary. And this is where I like to share a story, and some of you will recognize from a previous webinar together, that when thinking about your expenses, especially in times of inflationary markets like right now, remember that there are things that you can control and those you can't. My father is a retired community college professor, my mom a retired high school teacher, and so we had a lot of love in our family, and we did not do a lot of indulgent things as a little family. We really focused on frugal living and saving, and investing for the future. So we only went out to dinner when we got straight A's on a report card. So I came home from school one day, and when I got straight A's on a report card, ran home and told my father, Daddy, we need to go to Pizza Hut tonight for dinner because I got all A's on my report card. And my father said, as he leaned back and crossed his arms, Caroline, you need to eat dinner tonight. You want it to be pizza, and you wish it were Pizza Hut. And with that gentle, personal, familial story, I invite you to think now and all times with your expenses that there are needs, wants, and wishes that together comprise your expenses. And at all times, whether it's now with a high inflation environment, whether it's as you're trying to figure out pre-retirement, where you can change some spend to up the savings and investment, or maybe it's in retirement to try to manage the type of expenses that you're doing. Think of framing your expenses as needs, wants, and wishes, and give yourself permission to change your mind month to month around what is a need or want or a wish so you can experience a quality of life over time. Insurance is an essential component throughout our lifestyle, whether it's pre-retirement planning or in retirement. And the way I like to think of insurance in this way is the exchange of cash premium today for some protection in the future should life not happen according to plan. So when we think of it relevant to perhaps pre-retirement, it may make sense to purchase, for instance, life insurance if you have mortgage or kids that you want to help fund for college, so that if you should pass unexpectedly early, your survivors have access to cash in the forms of life insurance payout to help cover the debt to help pay for college. When it comes to retirement planning, a type of insurance that may be relevant for your situation includes long-term care insurance. If you're unable to complete 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, this type of insurance becomes effective to help you be able to do those types of activities like clothing or bathing, etc. And so the idea being, when it comes to this exercise 3, continuously using all your financial resources when it comes to insurance, being aware of your life stage, the risks to your lifestyle, whether it's pre-retirement, as you're planning for retirement, or in retirement, and understanding the relevant types of insurance to protect your lifestyle and making sure it continues to be relevant. The 4th key financial planning factor has to do with investments. And we talked about it both in our last webinar as well as in the last slide. The idea being that to help protect yourself for your future, you are looking across your different accounts, what's inside, what types of risks you're taking and why, and how your exposures interact. Because ultimately, on the whole and aggregate, you're looking for growth. You're looking for the ability to fund your lifestyle and hedge inflation. And as you move from pre-retirement into relying on your investments as a source of income to fund your retirement, you need to be able to withdraw from them to afford your lifestyle. Debt, that good debt and bad debt, the references I said earlier, not a nasty 4-letter word. And debt may look different at different times in our life. Some people are more comfortable taking on debt earlier on in their life, pre-retirement, because their vision is that in retirement, they don't want to carry any debt. Other people are comfortable carrying debt throughout their lifestyle because they see how it opens up their choices and they have a methodical plan for paying it off. In this moment, I am not here to say that you shouldn't use debt. I'm here to highlight that it is a strategic tool available to you as long as you understand the interest rate, the terms, and you use it to open up your choices, you pay it down rather than undermining your choices and it compromising your credit rating or other opportunities. So continuously consider debt potentially pre-retirement, planning for retirement, as well as in your retirement, depending upon your goals. And lastly, financial obligations. This is in the form of people. And there might be, when it comes to training for our financially healthy retirement, for some people, they don't have specific financial obligations or requirements for their children anymore, but they have wishes for how they would like to share their wealth with their grandchildren. Or as part of retirement now, with more people than ever in the sandwich generation having aging parents, it is very common for retirees to, at the same time that they're paying for themselves and their own lifestyle, have requests placed upon them from aging parents or siblings or other loved ones of their time, energy, or finances. So exercise 3, when it comes to financial obligations, says, don't take for granted necessarily that it's only about you today, in the future, or over time in retirement. Continuously ask yourself and understand, for whom are you responsible and how are you going to make that happen? And here's where, as a fiduciary, I'm compelled to say that when trying to make the trade-off for some families around, oh, should we put money into one account for other loved ones or our own account for our retirement, at the end of the day, you are responsible for you and your finances and your retirement planning. And even though you have a lot of compassion and love for so many other people, your obligation firstly and foremost is to yourself. It's like the old adage, when you're on a plane, put on your own mask before helping someone else. As we prepare to wrap up shortly then, to complement exercise 3, know and continuously use all those 6 pieces of your financial planning picture, exercise 4 says set and stick to your routine. In the same way we go to the gym and we might do cardio on one day and strength training on another, and different elements each day, depending on your life stage, there are different elements to prioritize. So when you're 10 years or further out from retirement, key elements to keep in mind include, from a saving and investing perspective, regular automated savings, taking appropriate types of risk for growth as you're accumulating wealth in your portfolio. As you increasingly get closer to retirement, 5 to 10 years out, you might make some changes to the amount of risk you're taking, because theoretically, you're not planning to work as long to recover from drops in the growth in your accounts or changes in the returns. As you increasingly get closer, 1 to 5 years, for many people, that's where they want to remove or reduce all debt and maybe only exceptionally take it on for specific financial goals or choices. And 1 year or less when it comes to retirement, presuming retirement is in your 60s, that's when you want to understand Medicare registration, Social Security claiming strategies, and really hunker down on understanding what your budget and spend look like. And that's where I'd like to say strategy number 6, to complement the other 5 strategies that we put out there around understanding how retirement income works and prioritizing the different types of retirement planning and investing savings. Know your numbers at the end of the day is important. And here is just an illustrative look at, given the amount of income you may earn today, how much you should have in retirement savings given particular assumptions around retirement in the future. The key takeaway here is the amount of retirement savings for you will depend on your income, your expenses, and the people for whom you are important. And as a general rule of thumb, we're looking for a multiple of your pre-retirement income in a variety of retirement and other investment accounts, with the expectation that those different sources of income are going to subsidize and support your lifestyle in retirement. And I recognize, as I take a deep breath, and it's 12:58, we covered a lot together in our final installment of our 4-part financial planning bootcamp series. We again reviewed what financial health and well-being look like. We introduced those 4 exercises that are essential for all of us at all times, regardless of where we are in this moment with regard to retirement. Envision our retirement, understand our risks, continuously use those 6 financial planning resources, and set and stick to our routine over and over and over again. Keep showing up to that retirement planning gym to strengthen and get better and better. And what are the different retirement income and investing strategies? Understand how the income sources work. Estimate your own retirement income, general rule of thumb, 75% of pre-retirement income, and understand that when you claim Social Security matters, and how much you get is a function of how much you put in and when you pull it out. Ensure as well, from a strategy perspective, that you're prioritizing your long-term retirement savings thoughtfully, strategically. Use all the different types of accounts available to you. And given your potential professional situation, use the ones available. And lastly, know your numbers. And at all times, know that I am here, always happy to offer a complimentary confidential consultation. And I thank you for your engagement. I thank you, New Haven Free Public Library, for the opportunity to share. I've Squared and Celeste. It's just such a pleasure to serve all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Caroline, again. And it was a pleasure to have you here at the New Haven Free Public Library and Ives Square. Okay, so just a reminder that these sessions are recorded in Facebook, and they will be in YouTube, in our YouTube channel as well. And hopefully we see you soon.
Definitely. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone, and have a really great week, rest of the week.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.